Hi everyone, welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian. I'm broadcasting to you live from beautiful Budapest, capital city of Hungary, Central Europe, where many will say that East meets the West on the two sides of the Danube. All right, so today, this is a members chat only class. Every week, we finish up the week with a members chat only. It's one of the perks of being a member. Hi, Naveen. I'm doing great. Thank you. Hi, Jeffrey. There's some of our members joining in. Naveen, we're looking at the question that you sent for today's class that you asked me to go into detail about. So today is a task one. It's a diagram, or we could say a diagram and a map combination. It's a little bit different, and there's absolutely a very logical way to write a strong task one response for this as well. So as usual, our materials are coming from our websites, these lessons, aehelp.com for academic IELTS, gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. So make sure you visit us there. You can try the courses for free. If you like them, you can join the full versions, of course. You can also download our app from your iTunes or Google Play Store. Members, you'll see, of course, you've already noticed this, I'm sure. Your loyalty badges did change a little bit. You have the head of the hero instead of the whole body. It just looks a little bit better, I think. Again, make sure you're looking at those video archives that are reserved for you, which we keep updating. Okay. Members, if you ever have a question, I think most of you are pretty good at this. You can email me, adrian@aehelp.com. That goes for everybody viewing. If you have a question about IELTS or our products, don't be shy. Send me an email and I will answer your questions to the best of my capacity. Writing and editing help is also available on our websites. Tomorrow, I am producing some comparing two maps type HD lesson that will be released next week. And then Monday and Tuesday, 22nd and 23rd, there's no class. And then on the 24th, on Wednesday, we're going to start off the week with a class on pronunciation mastery. So I'm going to explain important information about pronunciation for the speaking, of course, in the IELTS. And it also applies to the listening section because you're listening for certain kinds of pronunciation. We'll talk about some difficult sounds, some difficult letters like R, L, TH, CH, and so on. And then we have class for the rest of the week until the Saturday. Okay, let's have a look at writing task one. All right, here, let's read this first. Members, this is specifically designed, this class, mostly for you, so please make sure to give me your opinions, give me your sample sentences, and let's work through this example together. So, task one, writing. It's minimum 150 words, okay? So you have to write at least 150 words. I always remind you about that. 20 minutes, don't spend more than 20 minutes. That includes planning, writing, checking your work, 20 minutes altogether. The diagram below shows the development of some islands in the ocean. Describe the steps in the formation of these islands and make comparisons and contrasts where relevant. You should spend about 20 minutes on this task, minimum 120 words. All right, let's look at this diagram. Ta-da, as my little daughter says sometimes. Here is the diagram. So, Naveen, Jeffrey, can you see that clearly? Can you see this picture clearly? I'll zoom in and move around a little bit. So let me just enlarge that. So here you can see what's going on. Okay. There you are. So, what can you see here? What are we actually looking at? All right, there you go. You can see it clearly. Great. So what are you actually looking at here? you're looking at the Hawaiian Islands, right? At the state of Hawaii. So this is the American state of Hawaii. The American state of Hawaii is made up of the Hawaiian Islands. Now, this is where my pronunciation will probably fail because these are indigenous Hawaiian names. It's Niahu, Kauai, Oahu, Molokai, Maui, Hawaii, Lanai, and Kahulawe. Okay, hopefully I pronounced at least the major islands. The major islands here are Hawaii, Maui, Oahu, Kauai. Those are the ones I think that most people, and Molokai maybe, that most people refer to. They're the bigger ones, and then there's some smaller ones as well. Okay, so it's the Hawaiian Islands. So what you're looking at here is the Hawaiian Islands, and then you're looking at this diagram here, which is showing you the history of how these islands formed in the ocean. All right. So what should be our first step? Naveen, Jeffrey, what should we do first? What do we want to do first? And in this case, it's very important to do this because it will help us to relax, become confident, realize that, okay, this isn't as crazy and as tricky as it looks. We can do this no problem. So very important. You have to really pay attention to a couple of key points before you start writing. If you started writing this task 1 right away without doing much thinking, you just start using the words and start writing sentences, it's going to be a real mess and you will likely get a very low band score. So here you really have to focus on organizing and structuring your ideas before you begin writing. You think about the type, you realize that it's a diagram, it's a map. A map and a diagram at the end of the day are both diagrams, right? Sure. And then we've realized that, so what do we do next? So we're talking about a diagram and map. What should I do next? What is my next step? You don't need to assimilate the figure yet, Naveen. I think that's maybe where you got confused. You overcomplicated this question too early, and I think that's where you might have gotten into some troubles when you were looking at this. Okay? Remember, you want to paraphrase the original question and add some more detail. Okay? That's the same no matter which task 1 you're looking at. If you're looking at a bar chart, a pie chart, it's always the same. Paraphrase the question and write down some more details. So here, if we go back, the diagram below shows the development of some islands in the ocean. Describe the steps in the formation of these islands and make comparisons and contrasts where relevant. So here, let's write that paraphrase with more detail, okay? So go for it. Jeffrey, Naveen, so far it's the two of you. I'm sure some of the other 30, 40 members will jump in hopefully at some point. So paraphrase this and add some more details. I'm going to do the same. Just do it now, and let's see if yours is similar to mine. Hi, Nina. Good to see you in class. Nina, we're paraphrasing the question here, and we're adding some more details, of course, based on this diagram showing us the state of Hawaii, the islands of Hawaii, or the Hawaiian Islands, and this diagram here. So jump on in and go ahead and do this now. So the overview, this map and diagram depict the archipelago, I'm not sure, yeah, there we go, almost got it right, archipelago of the Hawaiian, of the state of Hawaii. Which is made up of several islands. The big ones being Hawaii. What are the other ones? Hawaii, Maui, Oahu, Kauai. Check the spelling. I don't write these all the time. Oahu and Kauai. Okay. I think Hawaiians also consider the Molokai as one of the main islands. I believe they think of them as 5, so let's put that in there. But if you don't know that, and if you don't get all 5 of them, it's fine, okay? The IELTS examiners don't expect that, as long as you get some of those big ones, all right? The diagram details the millions of years of evolution of this island chain. Okay, so that could be an overview, all right? You could maybe add more to it, but that's enough. You could do it a couple different ways. This is definitely a good one. Yours should be something close to this. So Naveen says the diagram describes. Naveen, don't say the diagram below or the below diagram. Don't actually refer to the location of the diagram on the piece of paper. That doesn't really have value to a reader or your audience, okay? So just say the diagram describes the evolution of the Hawaiian Islands in the Pacific Ocean, okay? So again, use the information that's given to you to add more details. So I'm not just saying islands, I'm saying which islands, and in this case, I'm going into saying Hawaii, Maui, Oahu, and so on, okay? So a little bit more specific here. Again, here's the map to help you out. Now, when you're looking at this, Nina, Naveen, Jeffrey, you should realize that this is basically your overview here. Okay, this map is your overview. This map is clearly an overview of this diagram, all right? And that's usually the way it is, especially if IELTS has done a good job, when you have two pieces of graphics. So you have a line graph and a table, or two bar charts, for example. In most cases, or in many cases, you'll notice that the one that's higher on the paper is the upper level description, okay? And that's what it is in this case. So this is the higher level description. This is a map which basically shows the islands of Hawaii today, okay? And if you're thinking quick and clever, you should realize that this is the islands as they are today. This is the process of forming these islands. All right, so this is your overview. This is what you should be using for that overview, okay? The diagram describes not all 5 of the islands. It's describing the process by which they're formed, these islands. It's not important to describe all of these, and there's a lot more than 5 islands here. It's just describing the process of how these islands got formed to be the way they are today. Okay, so this is your overview, and perhaps you can use this as your summary as well, but this is clearly your body and your analysis. Hopefully you recognize that, okay? So Jeffrey says, the atlas and diagram illustrates the Hawaiian Islands and how they emerged from the bottom of the ocean. Very good, Jeffrey. That's a good way to start. Yeah, Nina, this is a diagram. So this would be a diagram, right? You have these arrows here. You have the description of the layers of the earth there. And this is a map. Okay. Now, Naveen sent this question, and I believe this was a question on one of the previous IELTS exams. So that's why I decided to directly take this. This isn't something that I've made up. This is something that IELTS students actually had to write about. So Naveen was curious about how do we do this one if we get something similar. That's why I'm showing you. Okay, so you're not shocked and surprised and even though you might be able to do some really good writing, you get lost and do poorly on this part of the test. That would not be good. So a little bit of a lower chance that you're going to get something exactly like this, but it's possible. All right. So Nina, to answer your question again, this is a diagram combined with a map. A map is a type of diagram, right? Okay, so we've now written our overview. Okay, so the overview is this map and diagram depict the Hawaiian Islands and the way they formed over the course of millions of years. Okay, so before I start writing my analysis, what should I pay attention to? So what do I need to pay attention to? Naveen, I can absolutely sympathize with you that this would look kind of frightful or frightening at first glance, and it could shock a student, even a higher level student, on the IELTS, okay? So what should I do next, okay? I have my overview. What's my next step? What do I do now? Again, you have to be clever here to make your life easier, and you need to practice to do it in 20 minutes. And you're absolutely right, Naveen. You want to mark your key points and identify some type of order. So you need to have some kind of sequence here, okay? You're right. So where's a good starting point? If you're looking at this, where's a good starting point? I shouldn't make it difficult for you. You should see where that start point is. So where is your starting point? What's a good place to start here? What would be a logical place to begin with your first point in your analysis? Naveen says probably from the base, and then notice how Jeffrey disagrees. Jeffrey says, I think maybe from the oldest volcano. I agree with Jeffrey. I think it's easier to start with the oldest volcano, which dates back to 80 million years ago. When you have a diagram, especially a diagram that includes dates and years, it's generally easiest to go in a chronological order, okay? A chronological order means time order. So let me make a note of that for you so you remember that for the future. That is a very important point to organize your thoughts, all right? So when you have a diagram or even a graph that includes time, it is usually easiest to write the information in a chronological order. Okay, chronological order basically means time order. So begin by reporting that piece of information first, all right? So again, we go back here and we talk about the oldest volcano, or mention that first, right? So this was the oldest volcano here, so this is our point number 1. And then we can see that this is the youngest volcano here. So clearly, we're moving oldest to youngest, right? So this would be my point number 2, logically. What's my direction? What's my direction of movement? So I can assume here that the formation of these islands in Hawaii formed from the oldest to the youngest island, the oldest volcano to the youngest volcano. And what is my actual direction? Let's see how many of you are paying attention to the details in this map and diagram, because there is quite a bit of information here. So it's quite easy to write 150 words in an organized way about this diagram. Very good, Naveen. Very good. Very good. It's more Naveen's more specific than you, Jeffrey. So here's your compass, right? Whenever you have a compass, absolutely pay attention to that. So you have north, you have west, you have east, and you have south. So this is a northwest direction moving southeast, right? So northwest to southeast. That's the direction of the formation of these islands, okay? So that's what's happening here. How far apart are these volcanoes? Okay, another question here. How far apart are these volcanoes? Roughly, how much distance, how much ocean is between these islands, would you say, or these volcanoes? Can you see that? Let me help you out a little bit. Let me zoom in, tiny touch. That'll help you. So how much distance? You can see it here. It's a little bit foggy, but between each of these, Naveen, way too much. That's a huge distance. That's about how far the Hawaiian Islands are from the continent of North America. When you're given the measure, right, the scale, so this is your scale here, definitely pay attention to that. That's also an added piece of information, okay? So Jeffrey says between 50 to 100 kilometers, right? So if we look at that little map, and you're right, Jeffrey, if we look at this little map, we can see that the distance here is anywhere from 50 to 100, 120 or so kilometers between these volcanoes. So the volcanoes are roughly 100 kilometers apart from each other, okay? So that's another point. Okay, so now I'm feeling pretty good. I'm like, okay, I've got this. So I've got a couple points. I'm on a roll. So I can see that point one. Let's mention the oldest volcano forming first, which is probably going to be Kauai. The volcanoes formed in a direction of northwest to southeast over the course of how many years? 80 million, right? And they're roughly about 100 kilometers apart. So I'm getting some good information going. What should I do next? What would be my point number 4? So I have point 1, I have point 2, I have point 3. What's my point number 4? Okay. What is my point number 4? Let me zoom in a little bit. So this is where you probably want to, of course, have a closer look at this information here. Okay, so you're looking at this information here carefully. And you're looking at this information here as well. And that will give you points 4, 5, 6 around here, okay? So again, use your logic. So use your logic here. So it says, youngest volcano develops, built by numerous eruptions. There's a magma spume here. It's this kind of narrow vent. Hot spot spume remains static. It means it remains the same. So the lava can continuously flow to the surface. And if anybody's ever been to Hawaii, you will know that you can still see the lava coming out from the ground. And then here it says eruption process begins here, originating 2,883 kilometers below the surface of the earth, and then, or below the ocean. And then here you have this these arrows, and then you have the solid dense rock. So this is dense rock here, and then you have the direction of the shift. The Pacific tectonic plate is moving 7 to 9 centimeters a year towards the northwest, right? So at this point, you should probably realize that, okay, why is there lava coming out from underneath the ground? Well, it's because the Earth is breaking apart. Why is the Earth breaking apart? Because the plate, the Pacific plate, is moving. The Pacific plate is moving in which direction? It's moving in the northwest direction. Okay, so again, use your logic and notice what I'm doing. I'm using questions to put together the ideas. Okay, so here I'm talking about the formation of these islands from northwest to southeast. Why is that happening? Because the plate is moving, the Pacific plate is moving in the northwest direction about 7 to 9 centimeters a year. So that's my point number 4, which creates an opening in the Earth. That's number 5. How far is that opening in the Earth? Or how deep is it? It's about 2,883 kilometers below the Earth's surface. What happens? A hot spot spume remains open because the plate keeps moving, which allows lava to move forward and build these volcanoes. So that's my point number 6. Okay? So that, in my opinion, is probably the most logical way to organize my ideas. Does that make sense? Naveen, Jeffrey, Nina, if you're still there. Does that make sense? So is that clear? Have I simplified that for you a little bit? Are you able to understand this process now? Naveen, Jeffrey, thank you for confirming. Great. All right, so what do I need to do now? Simply just put it together, okay? So start writing, Naveen, start writing, Jeffrey. Nina, if you're still there, or one of our other members staying quiet, don't be shy. It's okay to make mistakes. That's why I'm here. Start putting together the body, the analysis, okay? Let's start with number 1, the oldest volcano. Okay, so here we go. The oldest volcano. I'll leave our notes up there for now so we don't have to go back to it. Here we go. So, okay, write, and I'll keep checking. So don't be shy, Naveen. Don't be shy, Jeffrey. Just write what you want to write and what you think should go. And then I will keep looking back at the board as I'm writing, and I'll check your work, okay? So just work with me, okay? Work parallel to me, and I'll read your sentences. Nina, you can, so you can describe the whole process. Or if you feel like, whoa, there's no way I can do this in 20 minutes, then just describe the key parts. So try to focus on some of the main parts. Maybe take out the part about the shifting plates and focus on just how the magma is moving up through the ground, okay? So you can kind of cut out pieces. Just make sure that the order is okay, all right? So you'll see here, it's not terrible. Just keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate your thinking. So according to the diagram, the earliest volcano began forming the island of, I heard that. I'll turn that back on. So just a moment. So the earliest volcano started forming the island of Kauai about 80 million years ago. After this time, 3 additional volcanoes formed in the ocean towards the direction of southeast. Okay? Each volcano roughly 100 kilometers from the next. Okay? Again, if your words aren't exactly the same, or your word choice or your sentences aren't identical to mine, that's okay. You don't have to write exactly what I'm writing. I'm just writing this for simplicity's sake, okay? So I will erase this now. Hopefully you've kind of remembered most of our points here. As you notice, I've already covered point 1, 2, and 3. And by the way, Nina, this is the first time I'm writing this as well, so don't think that I prepared for this and wrote this in advance. I do it just the same as I would if I were sitting the IELTS, okay? So the way I'm teaching this to you is exactly what I myself would do in the IELTS if I were faced with this question, and I'm doing this with you in real time to show you that this isn't about having some teacher materials prepared in advance and students going, well, yeah, it's easy when you've written it all down and so on. I just looked at it before class for a minute, realized the logic behind it, and that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm working through it together with you, okay? Yeah, you can say that as well, Naveen. So you can start it off in that sense. You can name them, but we've already done the naming of all the islands in the overview, so we might not need to go into repetition there, okay? It's a little bit maybe more important to talk about the direction of these volcanoes forming these islands and the distance between each of these volcanoes, okay, as we discussed with our points. So we have point 1, 2, 3. And then, of course, we said, well, let's talk about why this is happening. So why we have the formation of these volcanoes in this direction. So looking at the diagram in more detail, right? The formation of these volcanoes can be understood by observing the annual movement of the Pacific plate, right, which moves 7 to 9 centimeters per year in a northwest direction. By the 7 to 9 centimeter movement of the Pacific plate in a northwest direction, which results in what? In a magma spume that continuously remains open, right? Magma spume. I think that's the right spume. Sorry, is the right word there. Never, always be careful not to misspell words that are given to you in the diagram. If you're not sure, check, okay? Yeah, so that's right, Naveen. That's the next sentence. So the mobility or the movement of the tectonic plates at a rate of 7 to 9 centimeters annually towards the northwest explains the formation of these volcanoes and these islands. That's right, Naveen. So you're on the right track. Jeffrey, don't be shy. Just throw it out there. I bet your brain's going a mile a minute and you're thinking, all right, how can I describe this somewhat different from what Adrian's doing, but still in a way that makes sense? I know you push yourself hard for that, so absolutely. In a northwest direction, which results in a magma spume that remains, that constantly remains open. Okay? So I've already moved through this point here. I haven't mentioned that the eruption begins at this depth. I've kind of gotten to this point here. So now I can wrap this up by saying the lava moves or originates nearly 3,000 kilometers below the surface of the earth and spews out into the ocean, forming these islands, the youngest of which is the island of Hawaii, right? So that's where I can go with that now. Okay, so let me finish that with point 6. Okay, the lava originates from nearly 3,000 kilometers. Now, notice that it's not 3,000 meters, it's 3,000 kilometers, okay? The world is a big planet, it's a big ball, so careful not to miswrite information. It might be easy for someone to say, oh, 3,000 meters. No. It's 3,000 kilometers. So the lava originates from nearly 3,000 kilometers below the surface of the earth and flows out into the ocean, creating these islands, the youngest of which is Hawaii. Okay, beautiful place. I've been fortunate enough to visit there myself, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Some people say that it might eventually, just like Iceland, be a continent millions and millions and millions and millions of years in the future. Okay? All right, Jeffrey, I see that you've begun your journey for the analysis. The whole process of forming the volcanic islands begins from the oldest volcano, which appeared 80 million years ago. Brilliant. Yeah, that is a good first sentence. It is different from mine, and it works just as well. All right. So, how about a summary? What could we do here for a summary? Again, if you've run out of time, especially with a more difficult question like this, you might not need a summary, okay? So if you've written this much at this level, it's 150 words. I'm sure I can check, but I'm sure it should be around 150 words. You will get 9. You don't necessarily need the summary, but if you want to be absolutely sure, that is exactly 150 words so far. So we're right at the word limit. But if you want to be absolutely sure that you're going to get a 9, not just an 8 or an 8.5, you might want to throw in a summary at the end here. And again, it has to be some piece of information that can clearly be seen from this map. What is it? What can we clearly see in this map that we can summarize here? And there is something very obvious. Let's see if you can catch that. So what is something that we can say to a reader that say, hey, in summary, when you look at this, you will see. Now, of course, don't use the word you, but what is it that a person, a student in university, should be able to realize looking at this map? So, and of course, look at the big items, the big ticket items, always. Big ticket items here are these volcanoes, right? And the other big items are the arrows. Okay? So what can we say? If we look at those arrows and when we look at those volcanoes, what can we summarize about this diagram? Oh yeah, Naveen, always, okay? 4, 5, 6 solid points, and that doesn't matter what kind of graphic you're looking at. So if it's a pie chart or if it's a line graph, doesn't matter. You can absolutely write a good 150-word essay with 5, 6 solid points, okay? I only suggest writing more than that if somebody's really pushing for a band 9 and they want to teach ESL or something like that, or they're going for their doctorate in law or politics or something like that. Yeah, absolutely, Naveen. So the formation of the younger and younger volcanoes is in the opposite direction of the movement of the plate. That's definitely something that we can summarize. And as well, we can probably state that as long as the plate keeps moving, the volcanoes will keep spewing out lava and forming these islands, right? So that is our summary. Very clever, Naveen. There you go. See, once you tune in, you get your brain waves on the right frequency, it becomes fairly easy. So here we go. In summary, it is clear that the formation of younger and younger volcanoes is opposite to the direction of the plate movement. As well, while the plate keeps moving, further islands emerge. Okay, well, it's getting really tricky, but you could do that. All right, so let's read this now. Now it's about 180 words. Let's read it. Let's see if it makes sense. And of course, do this in 20 minutes. I know that's a little bit more difficult than it is to say, but with practice, you'll get there. Develop that critical thinking, develop that logical mind, analytic mind, and you'll be fine. You'll do well, okay? In the West, girls and guys, so if you're going to a recognized university in the US or in Canada, I had the fortune of graduating from the University of Victoria in British Columbia. The expectation for students' thinking is at this level. You need to be able to process, analyze information at this level in your first, second year, okay? So, and then it just gets more and more complex from there. So, college as well, so don't get surprised, all right? Here we go. The map and diagram depict the archipelago of the state of Hawaii, which is made up of several islands. The big one being Hawaii, Maui, Oahu, Molokai, and Kauai. The diagram details the millions of years of evolution of this island chain. According to the diagram, the earliest volcano began forming the island of Kauai about 80 million years ago. After this time, comma, it's time expression. After this time, 3 additional volcanoes formed in the ocean towards the direction of southeast, each volcano roughly 100 kilometers from the next. Looking at the diagram in more detail, the formation of these volcanoes can be understood by observing the 7 to 9 centimeter annual movement of the Pacific plate in a northwest direction, which results in a magma spume. I would put a comma here, which results in a magma spume that constantly remains open. The lava originates from nearly 3,000 kilometers below the surface of the earth and flows out into the ocean, creating these islands, the youngest of which is Hawaii. In summary, it is clear that the formation of the younger and younger volcanoes is opposite to the direction of the plate movement. As well, while the plate keeps moving, further islands emerge. That is your essay. Write it like that or something similar. You will be a band 9, okay? Any questions, Naveen or Jeffrey, Nina, if you're still with us or if any other members have hopped in? Meanwhile, don't be shy. Now's a good time to ask. So any questions about this type of map diagram combination? Again, remember, this is your overview. This is your higher level. This is the detail. This is what we're talking about. This is why this happened. This is how this happened, okay? Keep that in mind, all right? That's right, Naveen. Your university studies will definitely be harder than this IELTS test. So if you're going in to study geography, be prepared to have much harder questions to analyze and describe and write about than this one here, certainly. Okay. If there are no questions, then I'm going to sign off for this week of live classes. Again, thank you, Naveen, for this question. It was a very good question. I hope that you practice this at home. Okay, remember, all task ones you can write a good answer for. Don't overcomplicate them. Remember your logical steps, okay? Follow those steps. aehelp.com for academic IELTS, gieltshelp.com for general IELTS, ladies and gentlemen. Follow the materials there, and you will evolve your English as well as your thinking for IELTS, for university, for cultures in US, Canada, where critical thinking is highly, highly valued in the workplace and in society. I wish all of you much love, a happy and healthy, productive weekend, and I will see you on Wednesday, where we will talk about mastering pronunciation and how you can do that, okay? Thank you, Jeffrey. I aim to please. Bye for now, everyone. Take care of yourselves. Make sure to practice at home, and we will have a new HD video coming out next week where it's talking about comparing two maps. So check for that. That will be available on the channel. Bye for now.